Dzień dobry Państwu. Witam Państwa bardzo serdecznie na dzisiejszym spotkaniu. Naszym gościem jest dzisiaj Antonio Zapater, który będzie odpowiedzialny za część merytoryczną dzisiejszego spotkania. Spotkaliśmy się tutaj przy okazji omawiania bazy InterBase, o której pewnie Państwo wiedzą, ale nie wszyscy z niej korzystają, a uważamy, że jeśli chodzi o integrację z naszymi narzędziami, jak też możliwości tego rozwiązania bazodanowego, jest to naprawdę bardzo, bardzo dobre narzędzie.
Okay, so we're going to be seeing InterBase today. Because, it's a database, in case you don't know, that we provide in Embarcadero, and probably depending on the version of RAD Studio or Delphi or C++ build that you have, maybe you can even have a license for deployment as well on mobile and embedded solutions, but we're more about this later. Well, first of all, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Antonio Zapater. I'm a pre-sales consultant engineer in Embarcadero. And as I said, you have my email, so you can ping me with any questions, as long as they're technical. Don't ask me about discounts and stuff like that. That's then you have to ping the partner straight away. I have more than 15 years of experience with Delphi and databases as well. I've been working a lot with Linux and microservices development. I'm a big fan of Docker. And that's something I wanted to talk about as well. InterBase, you can also deploy it on Docker, which is much convenient, but it's still not a problem if you want to deploy it locally in a machine. But let's first see the agenda. It's going to be 7 points. The first one is we're going to do a very brief introduction about the types of environments, which is pretty much probably an area where you're going to identify yourself in. Then places where you can find databases. Then challenges that imply using data stores. So how do we store the data and where do we store it, and which challenges we face when we do it. And then we will talk about what's InterBase, so you have a better idea of the possibilities with the platform. Then we will do a quick demo to show the potential of some of the key features from InterBase. And then we will talk about a few case studies of actual customers that are using InterBase and how they're using it. We have many of them, but we're going to talk about a couple of them. This is an example. And as Rafael said, we're going to do a Q&A at the end in case you have any questions. So let's start. First, types of environments that we can find. So we have two types of developers here. The ones that are using databases and the ones that are not using databases at all. So you have to fit in one of these. So if you have already a database, probably the question you're asking yourself is why change, or even if I should change from the current database I'm using. And if you're not using a database, I just wanted to explain very briefly what a database is. Well, as it says there, definitely not Excel. So if you're using Excel, you're not using a database. But maybe you're using something to store data, because usually applications need to store data. But if you're using a file or a JSON file or an XML or stuff like that, that's not a database. Even if you're using DBase and Paradox and stuff like that, they're old-fashioned, like very the first types of databases. They were kind of a database, but they don't have the potential that you can have with a real DBMS system, where you have this layer that interacts with the database, and then you can define store procedures, you have triggers, you have integrity. So it's let's say that if you're not using any database as a service, so you can connect to that service, and the service is in charge of creating the transactions to keep the data cohesive and stuff like that, then of course depends on your application, but I would strongly recommend you to use a database for pretty much data integrity and multiple other solutions. Because of this, so if you're not using a database, or even if you're using one, data security is paramount nowadays, because if you want to fulfill that all these laws and all these regulations like GDPR in Europe, but there is also one in the US, Australia, etc. Because you need the data needs to be secure, data needs to be encrypted, mostly depending on the type of data you're storing. For example, if you're working with health data from patients and stuff like that, if you want to be compliant with the law, you need to encrypt all that data. So in case of an attack, or the database being hacked or something like that, the data must be encrypted. So that's also something to take into consideration in case you're using a database already that is not encrypting the most sensitive data. What would something of a benefit that you could have is even if you're using a database already, can you use more than one database? Because some people even say that it's good practice to don't put all the eggs in the same basket, we could say. So even if you're already using, let's say, PostgreSQL or MySQL or any other, or SQL Server, whatever, then maybe adding an extra database for specific information could be also beneficial, because then you have the information split into isolated environments. So that's something that you could also leverage InterBase and use it to store specific data without migrating all your data from your current database. And if you're not using any database, definitely think about it, because a consistency and a scalability, it's not comparable to storing data in just a file or something like that. And as I was saying, if you're going to start a new project or you're going to add new features to existing projects, you can think about the InterBase as a possible solution that you could analyze and then implement it as extra features. Or if you're using a new project, then start using InterBase from the very beginning. So which places do we find databases nowadays? Well, there are three main places. Of course, the most typical one is in servers. It's where usually databases live. You have a server that has one database and is used by a lot of users. And then we install an application running over TCP/IP to access remotely to the database, or maybe we have a middle tier and we publish that data through an API. But yeah, the standard place where the database is in servers. But then we also have desktop, which is not as common, but some applications also need to have local data stored in a database in the computer itself. And usually that data has been accessed just by one application or one user, the one that is actually using the computer. But if the application or the database, sorry, is not very resource intensive, there are plenty of environments where maybe there are just 3 or 4 computers, and one of those computers could be acting as a database. As a database engine. So all the computers connect to that regular desktop and act as some sort of server. So that's also another environment that I've seen being used a lot. Mostly, if you we will see an example later. But if it's like a small branch of a big corporation, maybe you don't need to deploy a server in that branch. And just if the footprint of the database is not very big, you could use just a desktop as a database server. The DB engine can either be inside the app or as an external process. So this is embedded into the application, the database engine, or as I just mentioned, it could be a service that is running in that desktop machine, and then all the users can connect to that machine. As I said, not a very typical scenario, but it's something that you need to keep in mind as a possible solution for your applications. And then we have the third one, which is mobile and IoT, or Internet of Things. This is something that usually we don't think about, but if you're using your phone, most of the applications, they're going to be actually using a database, because they need to cache a lot of data being pulled from the internet, because we know that mobile connections are not very reliable a lot of the time, so that the internet disconnects from the phone, but we still want to have the application being running and responsive. So all that data needs to be cached somehow. If you're familiar with mobile development, probably one of the standards is SQLite. That's a database that it has a very, very small footprint because every resource in a phone is very valuable because of battery and because of processors. So we need an engine that gives us the integrity of the data, but at the same time, it's very low on resources. And this is where InterBase to go, that we will talk about later, is just, it fits beautifully. Because also it has encryption at rest, which means that the data can be encrypted in the phone itself. That's something that with SQLite you can do, but you have to pay. The free version doesn't include encryption. So, and also that database is going to be encapsulated completely in the application. So you cannot access the data from, let's say, a laptop or stuff like that. It's the app itself is the one that is handling all the connections to the database. Okay, now we're going to see different topologies of environments. This one is a most common one. We have a server, and then we have multiple computers. I mean, these are desktop computers, but they could be laptops. And then they could be multiple platforms. One could be Windows, another one could be Mac OS, another one Linux. But they all connect to a server that could be running Windows or Linux. This is important as well, mostly if you have an application that is multi-platform. We need to have the possibility to have the client database connector that is compatible with multiple platforms. In this case, InterBase is, so you can develop an application for any of these platforms, and it could be able to connect to InterBase running, let's say, Windows or Linux. That wouldn't be a problem. This is the example I was talking about. You have a database running inside the phone, and that's fully locked. And if you activate encryption, it's even going to be encrypted, because that's something with mobile, we have opened this range of possibilities. That what happens if, for example, a doctor that is using a phone to take into some data from patients, and he loses that phone. What happens with that data that is stored physically in that phone, and someone steals it and tries to extract it? That's why I was talking about GDPR and all these laws. That data must be encrypted. So in this case, we need a database that runs with no server installation at all, and also needs to be very fast, lightweight, also no administration, and also has to be fully secure. And we can see here in this example that remotely is not possible to access this database because everything is embedded into the phone and the application. Excuse me. And this is another option that is very popular nowadays, mostly now where we have all the servers living in the cloud and stuff like that. We have a set of servers, could be one, could be two, could be 100, and also even we're connecting to external cloud services from our infrastructure. But we create this middle tier that is the one that handles all the communication with the clients. In this case, we have a myriad of different devices. We have a desktop with Windows, a laptop with Mac OS, and a tablet with Android, a phone with iOS. Of course, this could be any combination you prefer, but it's just to show you that it could be any type of device that connects with any operating system to the middle tier that then handles all the requests, and then asks the specific server what's the data that the client is requesting to. In this case, this middle tier could be, for example, RAD server that responds with JSON responses. So this could be, for example, InterBase server. This other one could be PostgreSQL. This could be Amazon Web Services. But then we access all the information through the same middle tier, and we respond in a standardized way to all the clients connected. So this isn't very, very powerful. Of course, it's more complicated to develop than just a standard TCP/IP connection through the network straight away to the servers we saw on the first slide. But this is getting more and more trendy because of, as I said, now we really don't know the device that is going to connect to our applications, and if and everything needs to be through the internet. So this is something to really take into consideration in case you're not leveraging this kind of technology. Challenges that we usually face, excuse me, in data storage. We can see here a few examples. I'm not going to go through all of them, but this is the typical challenges you face when you deploy a database in a server, and a desktop, and a mobile. In a server, it needs to be scalable. So we need to be able to adapt the server easily to the requirements of each environment. Also, it has to be with high availability, so we can replicate data quick, and we're gonna spin up another server in case of a problem. Security, again, data needs to be encrypted even to a user level. So one specific user can access encrypted data, or the other one doesn't. For a server, maybe it's not as crucial, but if you're going to deploy in a scale, performance optimization is crucial, because maybe if you have one server, doesn't matter if it's going to use a lot of resources, that database engine, like Oracle, for example. But if you're going to have multiple services, InterBase, it has such a small footprint that you can deploy using the same hardware, multiple instances, and you don't need to scale vertically the servers constantly. Then data backup and recovery, very important as well, in case we of course need to have a good backup system set up. But not only during the backups, we need to have a system that is easily to recover. With InterBase, you can provide multiple. We provide multiple solutions. You can even have like up to a specific day recovery. So it's like a snapshot system. And for desktop, we have resource utilization is the same thing. We want it to be not too resource hungry. Data needs to be synchronized easily. User accessibility, same thing. We need to give access to specific features from the database based on a role system. It needs to be compatible with multiple environments. And again, we also need, in case the database is running in the desktop, we need to have a plan for backup and restore. And the one I think is more challenging from all these three is mobile, because we have this first one, to me, is the key one, which is intermittent connectivity. With mobile, connection is very, very unstable sometimes. So we need to have a system that is reliable, and the data is stored, as I mentioned before, locally on the phone. So the application keeps running, and it can sync all the data based on, of course, the way we program the application. But also it needs to be, it needs to take care of the power that it uses, and is not very resource hungry either. So we don't drain the battery of the device. It needs to be fully secure for encryption, and needs to be very snappy as well, because we don't want a sluggish mobile application. So now, so what is InterBase? Now we've talked generally about databases and challenges and possible solutions, but let's see what actually InterBase is. So InterBase, as you can read, is 4 lines description, but pretty much it's a full-featured, high-performance, ultra-fast encryptable database that has nearly 0 admin, mostly on the mobile side. It's very, very low cost if you compare it to other solutions. And it provides data protection, security, speed, and performance. I'm not going to go through every single one here. We have all this information published on the website in case you want to go in much detail. But as you can see here on the main descriptions, I cannot emphasize this enough. The security is great. The encryption system we have is just top tier if you compare with other solutions, because some other databases, they encrypt the whole database. And it's just you have access or you don't have access. With InterBase, we have the system which is role-based user security, which means that you can encrypt a specific data and grant access to a specific users. And that's something you don't usually see in databases. It's self-reliant and resilient, so it has plenty of tools to do rapid crash recovery. We have a great login that we can log all the information for doing like auditories afterwards. The footprint of InterBase is ridiculously low. I mean, just as an example, a database that is compatible, that is running on a server, so the file itself with the whole database is inside just one file. You can get that file and put it in a phone, and the database is totally compatible. So and you can do the other way around. Imagine that you have a mobile application and you want to debug something that is going on with your app. You can get that InterBase database, extract it from the phone, and then run it on your desktop application. In your desktop environment, because the database is compatible with all the platforms. And it doesn't matter if it's running on Linux, if it's running on Windows, it doesn't matter. So you can imagine that for a database be able to run on phones, but also in servers, it has to be highly, highly optimized. Also, it's very flexible. As I said, it's multi-platform. It's one of the very few databases out there that is compatible with every major platform. You probably have heard about Firebird if you're familiar with Delphi. And Firebird is compatible with a lot of platforms, but it's not for iOS. And with InterBase, you have access to every single platform. It's very, very efficient, as I mentioned before, because it has nearly enough footprint. So you can imagine if it runs on a phone, imagine the speed that you're going to get in a server. So it's compared to SQL Server or Oracle, it's no possible comparison, because it's so much, much, much efficient. But that doesn't mean that it's not compliant with all the requirements to be a fully featured database. You can see here all the list of technical descriptions about why it's fully compliant as well with the standards of SQL. That's something I wanted to emphasize as well. I forgot when I was asking you if you weren't using a database, it's SQL, which is a key factor to extract the data, because in a file, if you're storing things like in a JSON file, it's going to take a lot of work to extract that data and actually analyze it in multiple ways. With SQL, you can just ask the database the data you need, and then you get the response with whichever data you required. And also you can perform group bys to some, let's say, a list of invoices or whatever. So it's not comparable, the possibilities you have using SQL that just storing things in a file. Not gonna go through this massive slide. It's just full of different features that, as I said, we have in our website, and you can dig deeper in case you're interested about the more specific recommendations. But yeah, the overview is pretty much what we've been talking about: highly scalable, powerful, embeddable databases, and small memory and on this footprint, simple installation and deployment, near zero administrations, encryption built into all paid versions. We provide for free InterBase IB Lite, which is the technical name. IB Lite is what we could say the equivalent to SQLite. So it's free. It comes with all the RAD Studio licenses, so you can deploy it for free if you want to. And IB2Go, which is the one that comes with encryption, we will talk about more about this different versions later. But IB2Go is the paid version that also comes included with Enterprise. And that's the one you can use encryption. But IB Lite is fully free, and you can use it in any of your projects. As I said, the only difference is that it doesn't come with encryption. Yeah. If you want to check all these details, go to the website, or just take a screenshot of this, or come back to the YouTube video later, and you can see them in more detail. These are the two main versions we provide for InterBase, even though we have as well an InterBase desktop and an InterBase developer version as well. InterBase developer comes for free as well with any RadStudio license. Has a few limitations, but like it doesn't allow many simultaneous connections, and the server is going to be running more than, I think, 72 hours. But that's, I mean, for developing purposes, that's more than enough. But it's fully featured, so you can use encryption, change views, all the good bits that come with InterBase. You can use that for development. But yeah, these two are the most popular ones, which is InterBase Server and InterBase to Go. I wanted to specify IB2Go because people tend to think that there are different versions, so there are two completely independent products. And conceptually they are, but the engine is pretty much the same thing. And as I said before, InterBase, the file itself, the database, is compatible between these two systems. So you can take an IB2Go database and even use it in an InterBase server if you wanted to. The InterBase server is compatible with Windows and Linux, and InterBase to Go is compatible with pretty much everything. So, and this one doesn't run as a service as it happens in InterBase server. It has zero runtime, so it uses libraries to access the database. As you can imagine, it's only one connection simultaneously because it's thought to be living in a phone. Well, actually, in line you can have, I think, up to 4 to access data at the same time. But it's just one device that can access the database. Well, of course, we're going to recommend you to use our tools to develop using InterBase, because they're highly coupled with FireDAC and even other tools we provide with RadStudio, Delphi, or C++ Builder. To access that InterBase, we use FireDAC, which, if you're familiar with RadStudio or Delphi or C++, you probably have used it if you use databases, because I mean, I think it's just brilliant, FireDAC. But in case you want to use it with other environments for development, or maybe you're part of a company that has multiple developer teams, and one is working with RadStudio and another one is using Python, for example, we also provide drivers to connect to other environments. We provide one for Python, another one for Visual Studio. Not only drivers, it's also compatible with the Entity Framework. If you're familiar with Visual Studio, it's the ORM from Microsoft. And also, you can access InterBase using ODBC, JDBC for Java. You can see here Eclipse, but you can access really from any Java application. And also ADO.NET. I'm not a fan of ADO.NET, but anyway, the three main ones are JDBC for Java, Visual Studio, and Python. Of course, I insist, if you want to use it, use our product. Okay, I'm sorry for all the coughing. Let's see a demo. We're going to see a project that you can download from our GitHub. You can scan this QR code, and it will take you straight away to the demo we're going to be seeing today. The demo is, okay, this is my VM. Let me close things. The demo is this one. So that QR code, it will take you to this URL. It's a bit hidden. It came with Brad Studio 11 demos. It's not available with 12. They decided to remove it and leave it here, but is fully compatible with version 12. Actually, is the version we're going to be using. And it's a simulation of a case study. So the story behind this this demo is, imagine that you have multiple pharmacies, and then you have the central headquarters, that is the one that handles which drugs you have available and under which category they're going to be listed. And that data needs to be synced automatically with all the pharmacies. Could be 2, could be 3, could be 1,000. The data needs to be synced from the central database, but we also want to give the functionality that in case the internet drops or any network problem, the pharmacy can still have access to all that data because the database is stored locally in the pharmacy. So for this, InterBase provides one of my favorite features from InterBase, which is a technology called change views. Change views, what it does is you link it to a main database, and then on demand, you can program that in the way you prefer. You can even set the timer to synchronize in, let's say, every minute or every hour, depending on how important the data is. And then it asks for the changes. Then it pulls all the changes, and you can even see, we're going to see in the demo, you can do, of course, automate this in the background so that the user doesn't see anything. But in this demo, we're going to see that the changes have been pulled, just specifically the deltas that have been changed. So it's very, very efficient because it's not like comparing the whole table or the whole database every time. It's just the changes that have been in the main database since the last time we requested. This uses a system called subscriptions. So you subscribe to changes, and then you can request the changes that have been in that subscription. I know maybe it sounds a bit complex, but we're going to see an example. First, I want to show you very, very quickly. We updated in the latest version IB console. In case you're familiar with InterBase, this is the admin application we provide. It's specifically built for InterBase, and it's very similar to any admin application, really. In this case, we're connected to a local server. It's been running in this machine, and then we can connect to multiple databases. Then I can access. These are actually the database demos we're going to be seeing in a second. But it's just to quickly show you, if I connect to medicines, then here I have access to all the tables I have. I can access the data from the table, of course, the metadata and the properties, how they're defined. I can create new fields, multiple types like integers, varchars. You have plenty of information as well on our website about all the types that are. It pretty much follows the standard SQL types, but you can access more details about this. And of course, integrity, you can create foreign keys, primary keys, indexes, etc., etc. And here we can see all the data from the table. And of course, we have indexes. We can create views. We can create the store procedures. We can create triggers. And here we have the subscriptions I was talking about, where you define the subscriptions you want to publish from this medicine database in this case. And you can define the subscriptions to a very, very granular level. So if we access this one, for example, all this will make sense once we see the demo. But I want to now that we're here, I want to quickly explain it. In this case, we're creating a subscription that it says every time the table category for any row, it has an insert, an update, or a delete, that's a candidate to be subscribed to. Same thing with medicine, and same thing with medicine categories. So this tracks inserts, updates, and deletes to any table of this database. Of course, you can have hundreds of tables, and you can even customize saying, I just want to publish every time there's an update to this table in particular. There is a whole syntax that you can check in our documentation about how to use this. I just wanted to show how granular this description and change view system is. Okay, enough theory. I'm going to quickly show you the demo. This is the project the one I just showed on GitHub. It comes with 3 projects. There is one that is the data merge project. Is not as important. Let's say it's another example to merge data with a third-party database like MySQL, for example, or SQL Server. The 2 ones we're going to be seeing today is Pharmacy App and Central Data Viewer. I have them running down here. So for this making sense, we have 3 applications running here, as we can see here. The one in the middle, this is, let's say, the headquarters. This is the mother of all the databases. This is where we create the categories for medicines, and here we have all the medicines available. And here down here we'll link saying, okay, influenza, these 2 medicines are related with influenza. And here we have the 2 pharmacies. In this case, we have 2 examples, Pharmacy 1 and Pharmacy 2. As I said, this could be 100 pharmacies, so the system will be exactly the same. And then we connect to a central server. Both of them are connected to the same database. So let's do a quick example. We have allergies. We can see allergies here. Pharmacy 2, allergies, Pharmacy 1. I'm going to change this to just allergy, for example. Okay, I did my change in my central database. And now if we come here to data updates, we have 2 buttons, which is fetch deltas and post deltas. If I fetch deltas from Pharmacy 1, it says, okay, you've changed, we have a change here. It's allergy, not allergies. Say, okay, post deltas. There you go. We have the database synced. Of course, this is for demo purposes. It's done by buttons, so you can see actually the changes. But all this could be done in the background, and the user doesn't even know. Okay, the Pharmacy 1 is synced. Pharmacy 2 is not yet, but they haven't synced because they don't have the internet. Okay, we're going to create another category, which is called headache. Then Pharmacy 1 comes to data updates, fetch delta. Okay, we have a new category, headache. Okay, post deltas. There you go. We have headaches available. Now the internet is back in Pharmacy 2. And say, okay, fetch deltas. So, yep, you have 2 things that are wrong. Allergies have been modified, and we have a new category called headache. Say, okay, post deltas. And there you go. We have all the categories synced automatically. I want to emphasize that this application is running in one database. This is running in another database, and this one is running in another database. But all this has been done automatically by InterBase with a change view subscription system. Of course, to make this more complex, we could do it as well. For example, let's say I want to synchronize all the sales I've had in Pharmacy 1 to the central database. So this doesn't work just in one direction. We can create subscriptions for the pharmacy databases, and then the central one pull in those deltas to synchronize in a common table all the sales from every single pharmacy. It's actually we're working on. We started to create this demo for orders and stuff like that. I don't have it ready yet, but the idea is to also do this synchronization in the other direction as well. But now you'll probably be wondering, but okay, this is very cool, very powerful, but how much code does this imply? And the good news is like not much. The demo is very simple. As you can see, we have just 5 units. This is for the pharmacy app, and you have the data merge app that has 3 units. So just really pull this demo, play around with it. It also, I want to live clear that it comes because it needs some customization, because I mean, we're providing the databases and everything, but we have a PDF here that explains how you need to set this up, because the databases need to be synced with InterBase and stuff like that. Very simple. I mean, it's 3 pages document that you can quickly read and customize. So you have access to the databases, and then you will be able to use this demo. Coming back to the code, you're gonna, as I said, you probably want to know how much code this implies, and it's really these 3 lines. So we create, I mean, it has quite a few components here to connect to the central database, to connect to the local database, to check the subscriptions and stuff like that. But once we set up the initial, when we create the data module and we open all the queries, it's pretty much doing a merge, because it knows the changes because of the subscription. Because what we need to do is to set the subscription active, and then the databases are doing their thing. So we just need to say, okay, I'm going to merge the deltas that have been pulled, and that's it. You can even analyze the deltas because they're stored in a query. So the deltas of the changes are stored in a temporary query, and you can analyze that data to decide if you want to merge it or not. In this example, we're merging it straight away, but you could loop through these changes and decide, okay, this one, we're going to create like an integrity problem, so we're going to discard this one, because maybe you have a database that both sides creating records at the same time in the same table. So you could do a bit of check-in, but you have the data there. You can just do whatever you want with the data. And then to post the deltas is pretty much the same thing. We just apply the updates and off you go. So as you can see, very little code for such an amazing technology. And this, it could be replicated, as I said. In this case, we have 2 pharmacies, but we could have 1,000, and the system would be exactly the same. Okay. Feel free to scan the QR code and pull the demo and play around with it, because it's, as I said, as you actually see, it's very, very cool. Okay, we're going to be talking now a few case studies of a couple of companies that are using currently InterBase. Opus Capita is a company from Finland, and they're using InterBase for an e-invoicing service that enables fully automated invoicing processes with account receivable and account payable. They use it as a software as a service solution for government and very, very large enterprise companies. They were using different technology before, and that didn't scale very well. So they wanted to find something with a smaller footprint, and that it allowed them to have, let's say, because they already had a Delphi team to quickly integrate that with their solutions, and they eventually chose InterBase. And just as an example, the processing at the moment, like plus 500,000 records inside InterBase. So that's quite a lot of records. And InterBase provides them like a very fast server performance, while it's a small footprint reduce the cost of expensive hardware. And as I said, it allowed them to have a small development team using Delphi and InterBase. And now at the moment, they're even creating web solutions and also improving the desktop client. And one of the codes, they said, the InterBase stored procedures and triggers are blazingly fast and enabling rapid, complex processing of data as it arrives into the system. So this is just one example of a current user of InterBase. We have another one, there's Bonev Soft Auditing. They are from Bulgaria, and it's one of the biggest accounting software companies, as I said, in Bulgaria. It's flagship software. It's pretty much a standard there, and it's an integrated management system for Windows that is extensively used by government and non-government organizations globally and across a number of vertical industries. The challenges they had before they moved to InterBase, they wanted a database that could scale very quickly from just a handful of users to hundreds, if not thousands. And that process had to be very, very quick and without the requirement of putting more hardware on the server or to make it to migrate to another one or stuff like that. And one of the key factors as well is that because they're working with governments and very enterprise companies, they needed to have their certification for ISO 27001, which means that the data has to be encrypted and you have to go through a lot of checks to get the certification. And they managed to get it with InterBase. And as a result, they have a huge cost saving in staff that they're passing that saving to the customers as well. So they have a more competitive product because they don't need as many developers as they need before. They say that it is with near zero effort because the migration was very, very simple for them. And now we have a lot of new features already out of the box. One of the favorite ones are write-ahead login and transparent encryption. As I said during the whole presentation, the encryption system of InterBase is great. And now they're developing mobile applications as well. So they're even sharing the same business logic developed with Delphi to share between a VCL application and a FireMonkey application. So that's something that is very, very powerful as well. Of course, you need to abstract this properly and have just because as you know, VCL and FireMonkey, they're not fully compatible, but we have a lot of components that they are. So if you abstract that in a clever way, you can have a data module that could be shared between a FireMonkey and a VCL application. So you share those units and then you share the same business logic for your mobile applications and your VCL ones. And as someone from BSOF said, we evaluated many database technologies and InterBase had the right mix of ease of use, speed, high performance, and the scalability for our needs. These are just also one of my favorite ones, actually. We have InterBase out of the planet. It was for a tiny thing in the rover in Mars. It was a small service. As you can imagine, one of these things, the amount of technology that they have and multiple services and stuff like that. But they needed something that was that efficient and that small footprint to put it in the rover that for one of these services, InterBase to go was used. So we can say that InterBase is now out of this planet as well. But these are just a few examples. You can check this QR code as well. We have some other case studies there. Of course, these are just companies that they were willing to explain their experience, but we have a lot of other companies that are using InterBase like Siemens and some others. But if you want these case studies in much more detail, you can scan the QR code and see the challenges they faced and how they solved them, etc. Okay, so this has been pretty much the presentation. Now we're going to do a quick Q&A. You have a QR code there. It will take you to the InterBase webpage in our website. And as I said, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask now, or you can also ping me on my email, and I will be more than happy to answer any of your technical questions. As I said, don't ask me about discounts, but ask me about how InterBase works and how we can make it work in your company. Thank you.
Okay, so here we go. I see there is one question at this moment. I am trying to, oh yes, I think it should think like that. Yes. Okay, so the question is it really one file and it's compatible with all the platform? So if you can say something about that.
So you mean that the database is just one file and then it's compatible with other platforms? Yes, absolutely. So you can take, let me quickly show you how this one if we come here to where these databases are being stored, if we come here to my hard drive, and these ones are here in data, we have 3 files, medicine.ib, pharmacy.ib, and pharmacy2ib. So these files, the IB files, you can take this to any other computer.
Okay, at this moment we don't see your screen.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's okay. Then the databases I was using for the demo, they are just 3 files. So you can just take that file, and I was running on Windows, and you can take that same file to, I don't know, a Linux server or even an iOS application, and the database is really the same. So the schema and the structure is exactly the same, so it's fully compatible.
Okay. I see the continuation. You mentioned that you are not responsible for the discounts or whatever. I see that there is a question about the cost of deploying.
Yeah, we have, as I said, I don't do numbers usually, but I know that if you have an enterprise license, you already have included an unlimited deployment for InterBase to go. So if you're planning on creating a mobile application, for example, and you want to use encryption in your phone, you already have it with enterprise. You don't need to purchase anything. If you're a professional, then you will have InterBase Lite without encryption, and that's also free. But you can upgrade to enterprise, or you can ask someone from sales to, because we have a very beneficial VAR agreement. And also for servers, I don't know the numbers, but we also have a VAR, because usually the system works with a license amount of users, let's say, connected. So you can get a server license, and then with 10 clients connecting to the database. But in case you're gonna do a lot of deployments with multiple customers and stuff like that, you speak with sales, and you can have a VAR agreement to just pay a fee, and then you can deploy in a limited way. I cannot say the price though, but yeah, the system is very flexible. And if you're interested in InterBase, really paying someone from sales, then I'm sure they will find an agreement to your needs. And as I said, any technical questions, feel free to ping me, and I will be more than happy to help you.
See you next time, I think. And thank you very much, Antonio, for your time and preparation. And do widzenia Państwu. Tak samo życzę spokojnego czasu. Do zobaczenia. Dziękuję bardzo.
Okay, see ya. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.